Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Select Board's Committee on Policing Reforms. And this is our meeting for March 1st, 2021. Let's start off by giving the members of the committee an opportunity to provide any updates to their work or make announcements or comments. Anyone like to speak? No? Okay, moving right along.
Can I make a brief, quick comment?
Sure.
So I just wanted to say that we got 87 responses from employees of the police department to our survey, and today, and I haven't really had the chance to dig into them very deeply. I mean, there are a few things, there's a whole lot of interesting info, a ton of handwritten, open-ended feedback on various things. You know, calls officers don't want to respond to necessarily, or all sorts of different issues. A few things that kind of leap off the page are that morale is really, really low, and that there's a perceived people are very unsatisfied with levels of compensation in the department. It really leaps off the page, the extent to which those sentiments are held among employees of the department. And also, I think just related to the low morale is a perceived lack of support from, it seems mostly that people are talking about political leadership, but to some extent also, I think the community, but maybe a little less so. So yeah, like low compensation, low morale, lack of support, and then just a whole lot of other things I haven't really been able to dig into, but I'm excited to look into that. And if anyone else is interested in looking at the survey responses, I've cleaned it a little bit and I'm happy to try to collaborate on that.
How many?
Can I ask a question, Bernard? And I sent a message to you earlier today. I wasn't sure who to address it to, that some officers were concerned about some of the identifying questions as to race and gender that, you know, would very specifically identify them if the responses were publicly released. And so I didn't know what our plan was for the raw data. And if we are to release the raw data in a public format, that we do make an effort to maybe de-identify some of that so that it doesn't expose those officers.
Yeah, I saw that. So can we do that, Mike? We have to do that, but is that a problem?
No, not per se.
Okay.
This is not yet a public document either.
Right.
Well,
at some point we'd want it to be.
Yeah. Quite a lot of folks preferred not to answer the various demographic questions. I don't know if that addresses that concern fully or not, but like for some of them, like for race, it's got to be like half of the responses did not provide any response at all, or maybe even more than that. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of discretionary non-response, but I'm not sure what all we need to do to satisfy that concern.
Can we at least say that there was a X percentage response by, let's say, Black employees or women employees?
It's extremely hard to determine that because so many people preferred not to respond to those questions, and we have no way of knowing who those people are.
Yeah. And there were so few. I have a feeling that there were so few Black employees anyway that would be semi-identifying. But whatever.
Yeah, for most of our categories that are not white men, it would be fairly easy if you looked at race, gender, and years of service to quite easily identify people. So I do think that you'll see that many chose not to answer that, just not knowing where the data will go. I think, you know, if we could have dialed it back, if we could dial back the clock, I would say, you know, if we had maybe given some direction to officers filling out the survey, what, you know, how that information would be shared, we may have been able to get more responses on that, but that's a lesson learned.
Well, you know, what we can say is that we have whatever the percentage response rate is, and that means that we ought to listen to the information we're getting from these respondents. Bob Sable?
How many did you say you got? It sounded like it might be a rather high percentage.
Yeah, 87 responses. I'm not sure how many employees are in the department. I would suppose like
Yeah.
150, 160.
Yeah, I believe Janice said, well, she'll probably answer it anyway, but I think she said it was like close to a 48% response rate, or something like that.
Yes, it's yeah, it is close to 48% response.
Wow.
Newton, by comparison, had a 21% response to their survey. So even without the demographic data, I think it'll be really interesting and important to get at some of the issues that we really want to know, which is like retention, for instance, which is a big issue for our town.
I would. It seems like a substantial majority of officers or employees, rather, and including officers, have seriously considered leaving. And in the open-endeds, quite a few basically said they're actively trying to leave, which is notable.
Yeah, well, that's something that the town needs to know.
Yeah.
Both,
absolutely.
both those of us in government as well as the community. Marty, you.
Right, can I jump in? I tried to raise my hand electronically.
Yeah,
but,
that's why I'm responding or answering you or responding to your hand.
It seems to me that the report that's going to be issued public, I don't know, the report is it posted online yet?
Well, the preliminary report is online.
Oh, I know that was. Let me get to my point.
As soon as we finish with the edits to the report.
All right. Well, the point I want to make is this, which is mostly which is that it seems to me this is a serious piece of feedback that we did not have before, and I think it ought to be incorporated into the report. I did give Bernard, as he knows, some suggestions for his introduction and whatever overview, whatever. And I did try to highlight for that some of the stuff about personnel issues and salary and retention, which has really been brought home to me the last few weeks more than the last 6 months. And I think the one thing I did not mention in that sentence or two that I gave Bernard was the morale issue, but I do think it's an important issue that ought to be part of our report, whether it's by Tuesday, which is tomorrow, or the next few weeks, because I'm glad. I don't remember who came up with the idea to do a survey of the department, but I think it was an excellent idea, and it is certainly what I've been hearing from now 5 individual officers on detail in front of my house the last 3 weeks. I've been doing my own informal survey, including Michael Keaveney. So I think it's a serious issue, and it goes to the retention thing, which is a serious issue. So I hope it'll get into the report somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about it at the presentation tomorrow, and it doesn't have to be a formal part of our report, immediately, but it should be something that, some preliminary analysis should be on our website.
Well, what I'm saying is at some point, I think it needs to be a formal part of the report, because that's what's going to live, 10, 15 years from now, like the 2009 one and the 1987 one.
Okay, so we'll figure out some way of doing that.
Yeah, thanks.
I can add a couple figures. I mean, just like the answers to the morale questions and some of the others that leap off the page. I mean, I don't have time or bandwidth to do anything significant, but I've made like a couple of bar charts if we want to include those in something for tomorrow. I mean, like if I can share my screen, I'd love to show you all the morale response, because it's kind of crazy. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not for people who know.
Okay, why don't you share your screens and show us what you're talking about?
Well, like this is basically
Anne Braga's here. So.
The answer to the please rate the morale in the department. So there were 87 respondents, and I think 76 said poor and 7 said okay. Maybe it was like 1 not sure, 1 not excellent, 2 good. So that's pretty bad. And then this was another one. I mean, I haven't had the chance to really dig into things, but compensation was also generally perceived very badly. And this was also, the open-endeds mentioned this a lot, that people, if they like transferred to the state police or to Boston or whatever, they'd get a raise. And that was something that they cared a lot about. I mean, I haven't really been able to do too much more since this, like, where I had other stuff to do today than this. Yeah, I mean, those really just leapt off the page.
Yeah, good. So, I mean, I think that they stand by themselves in terms of useful information. So, you know, we can at least, you know, include that in our, somewhere in our report, you know, even before you get a more detailed analysis.
When we have time, which we're not going to have right now, but to dig into some of this stuff more deeply, some of the specific spelled out reasons for people for like why they joined the Brookline Police Department, I thought those were, I only got a chance to glance at them, but I thought those were very interesting in terms of the very positive motivations people have for wanting to join the Brookline Police, and I think it's worth highlighting those when we get to it.
Yeah, more generally, there's just so much open-ended response with a lot of interesting stuff that somebody could look at. If anyone's interested, I'm happy to kind of collaborate on that. So
We all get, what is the document? Is there one document, or are they just individual? How is it compiled?
So what I've done, well, maybe Ron, you can answer that, and then I can answer.
Yeah. Okay. So what I exported the answers into a comma separated values kind of format, which is easily loaded into things like Excel and other kinds of things, and the individual responses just kind of come out on a line of I'll just say Excel, as you know, you have the respondents and respondent ID, then the ID of the question, and then the answer kind of spelled out in text. But there are ways of pulling that together to put into things like word clouds and that kind of stuff, which are more options for digesting this stuff in advance. And I think probably it would make more sense for someone who's familiar with how to do those sorts of things to kind of, I'll say, digest the responses that way. Although, as I said, we can give it in raw form, the individual responses. Thinking in terms of people valuing confidentiality, I would like to have everybody who's going to get the raw data kind of, you know, pledge that they, which I think we probably should assume, but I would like people to go explicitly kind of pledge that they will keep things confidential that should be confidential.
Well, we should, I mean, it should go just to people who can do the analysis as opposed to, you know, broader subset of even the committee.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, as long as the demographics aren't in the data, it doesn't seem to me that it would be identifiable. So I don't see what's the issue with, I mean, perhaps some of the open-ended responses reveal specific situations that if you were really in the know, you would be able to identify like who's talking, but so we might actually have to think about that too.
Yeah, we just have to take a look. And,
yeah.
You know.
Can we get back to the demographic question? Because if they're anonymous forms that were submitted, I don't see the harm of having the demographic. I guess I didn't understand Casey's question. I don't see the harm of identifying the race that was checked off. What is the harm of?
We have one Black female. We have one Latino female. We have, you know, I believe, you know, 11 Asian officers. And if you look at their race, their gender, and time served, and these were raised to me by officers as concerns that they would be very easily identifiable, and they were concerned about, you know, some type of pushback, you know, from, you know, whether it be the administration or the town for, you know, expressing candidly how they felt. Yeah. So, you know, I would be reluctant, I think, to release this as a public document, especially since officers now are still completing that, completing the survey. And if, it's snippets are being taken and shared, outside the data analysis that needs to happen, I feel like that without some analytics and thoughtful review of what's being shared, I think that, we may lose some people on, submitting the survey, and I think it might not improve morale much either. But
okay, could someone send me a couple paragraphs or a couple sentences that I can report tomorrow at the select board? That's doesn't have any of the troublesome information in it.
Yeah, I
Seems
mean,
to me, it's a
just,
pretty simple set of basically 3 sentences. How many people responded? And the 2 things that were just shared on the screen about morale and compensation. Those are the big things to me. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure there's a lot of other good things in there, but it seems to me for purposes tomorrow, those are the 3 points.
Okay, Michael Keaveney, I see your hand is up.
I just wanted to point out one of the most common questions I received as it was people beginning the survey was, is this an anonymous survey? And so I just wanted to point that out. Anonymity was important to the officers who were participating in it. So I guess if they filled out the information, then they don't mind not being anonymous. But I also just want to recognize that was one of the biggest concerns of the officers taking the survey. Will it be anonymous? And they have legitimate reasons for wanting to remain anonymous under this
Right.
climate.
I don't think the original responses should be shared. I don't want them, and I don't think most people should get them. I do think that somebody should write some kind of a summary when they get a chance. It maybe that could be broken down by demographics, that X ethnic group felt Y. I don't know, that kind of stuff.
I think that's probably problematic, but we don't need to be scientific. It doesn't need to be a scientific survey. We can make general statements. Okay.
So I will not, I guess the point is that we won't be circulating anything with the demographic responses at this point. And I guess for the most part, I don't know what we'll do with the full survey, because all the open-ended responses seem really valuable. I think we'll just have to talk about this offline.
Yeah, we will have to talk about it.
Yeah. And at our next meeting, which is the 10th, I believe.
Okay. And then I can probably write the 3 sentences or whatever for tomorrow.
Okay, great, thanks.
The 2 documents that were put up, can we all get those at least?
The figures?
2 graphs.
Those 2 graphs, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll share one more. Let me see if I have it open, actually. Forgive me for not.
In fact, I would ask if those could be added to the report by tomorrow.
Yeah, so this was another one. I guess a lot of people seriously consider leaving their job, but this seemed higher than I expected. But this was asked in the terms of, have you ever seriously considered, not are you currently seriously considering? But from the open-ended responses, quite a few were, clearly quite a few people are seriously considering leaving. So, about maybe 73, I can't remember, but of the 86 or 87 responses suggested that they had seriously considered leaving. So those 3, I think, will be the 3 sentences, and then, 3 substantive sentences.
Another couple of questions that I thought were interesting. Taking a quick glance is, there was a question, do you feel you have the support of the people in the town, and do you feel you have the support of the leadership of the town? And they were markedly different. Many more officers thought they had the support of people in the town than thought they had the support of the leadership of the town. I thought that was very striking. I think those are also worth saying.
Yeah, I can try to do something with that. I noticed that as well, but I hadn't made anything of it yet.
Well, that's pretty significant. So, going forward, someone like Janice, who apparently works on this stuff, and maybe Michael and others, should give us some perspective on a survey like this, because whenever you ask a person a question, the asking itself is going to define how the answer comes out. So we want to make sure that we're at least clear that some of the responses we get are responses that people want us to have, as opposed to maybe their real thinking. Right. That makes sense, Janice?
What does that mean?
Yes, so I can say that we did discuss whether or not to include demographic data, knowing that that might discourage some people. And it was felt that it was still worth at least asking. One thing to know that in Newton, which did a survey, the findings tracked similarly for morale and feeling a lack of support from the leadership of the municipality. So I don't think that's unique to Brookline. It may be unique to Brookline and Newton, I don't know. But in any case, yeah. So I think it's important to also put things in a broader perspective. There is definitely something happening in Brookline, and it's also happening elsewhere.
I would just like to say thank you to the subcommittee that worked, or the working group that pulled that together. And I know I appreciated the questions. I thought it was very well constructed, touched a lot of areas, and I found myself, really reflecting and answering those questions. And I there are a lot of people talking about the survey and how they kind of felt about it. And I think many appreciated that now that we're, I don't know what, like 6 or 7 months into this process, that they had an opportunity to talk about how so much of what we're talking about affects their day-to-day work life and home life even. So thank you to those of you that pulled that survey together. Appreciate your work on that.
Right. Okay.
Thanks for all the thoughtful responses too. I mean, clearly a lot of folks took the time to think seriously and thoughtfully about, respond thoughtfully about, ways that they thought the department could be improved. I thought that there was really a lot of earnest feedback on that. It's quite interesting. I learned that apparently there's a decent amount of complaints about neighbors not shoveling the snow, and officers are not particularly happy to respond to calls about that, perhaps unsurprisingly. It just seems like a little petty, I guess. Anyway, just all sorts of little things like that, which I found interesting.
I have to say, at a point of personal privilege, that I started that bylaw in the 1980s, and I object to that objection.
Okay.
I do think
neither here nor there. Let's move on.
I think DPW should be doing more of it.
Okay. Okay. So is it Michael that's going to give me a few sentences?
I guess unfortunately I volunteered myself, so I'll do that.
Okay. Let's move on to meeting minutes. We have 1, 2, 3 sets of minutes. Oh, wait a minute. 2 sets of minutes that we have to approve. Have people had an opportunity to review them? They want to vote on them?
I usually try to review them, but I haven't had a chance. I think we got 2 today, right?
You've had these for 2 weeks because
Oh,
we
yeah,
were originally going to vote on them on the 24th. So you got
Right.
them not this past Friday, but the Friday before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I'm not going to raise any objections at this point.
why don't we, I'll move approval of the minutes for February 10, 2021 and February 17, 2021, subject to corrections of small details. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? We're supposed to do a roll call, I hear. Correct, Evan?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, I'll go by who's on the screen. Michael Zero.
Yes.
Marty Rosenthal.
Yeah.
Paul Yee.
Yes.
Ron Wilkinson.
Yes.
Bob Sable.
Yes.
Casey Hatchett.
Yes.
Elizabeth Childs.
Yes.
Sasan Zelka, you should probably say abstain.
He was at the last one, right?
Were you?
I was.
Okay.
Well, not on this subcommittee. I was on the police reform call.
Okay.
Meeting, but not
Since you're just starting, why don't you abstain?
abstain.
Unless you've had a chance to read them and you know,
I briefly
feel comfortable
looked
doing
over them, so I'm fine with it. So
Okay,
I briefly looked at it, so I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, so February 17, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, February 10, yes, no, or abstain?
Abstain on that one.
Okay, good. Okay, that's all that I see on the committee. Did I miss anyone? No,
And
I
the chair votes.
Oh, chair votes. I missed myself. Chair votes yes. Okay, moving on. Public hearing discussion. So at the public hearing, we did receive a few comments from the audience, including comments in the chat room. And unfortunately, I said that we would respond to them, which I think is appropriate. So we need to think about how we respond. I have not had a chance to do that between the hearing and today, but we need to do that. So what I'd like to ask is that, well, first of all, we have a discussion of those comments and what we think should be our response, and then someone should volunteer to actually write the response and reply or respond to the people who asked the questions. I mean, they raised actually some useful information, or they were useful questions in terms of, the amount budget townwide that we're talking about with some of our recommendations and some other things. So, what do people think? I mean, people recall what the questions were?
Well, one of the ones that I found most pertinent was not surprising. What was Ryan Black, who pointed out that from the point of view of many activists, with the movement to take funding from the police department and putting it into other services, and a general philosophy that police budgets should be reduced, given the concerns people have about police budgets in the country. And so we're talking about some increases to the police budget. And so there were other people who will be concerned about that too. So on the other hand, what we've seen from our data is that one could even argue that Brookline Police are underfunded, given that it's only 5% of our budget, and that Brookline Police are underpaid compared to police officers in neighboring communities. And so it gets into, and that's number one. And then number two, there's the whole idea of, for those of us who feel that there should be increases in social services, and I think there's broad agreement, I think probably from both committees, that there should be an increase in funding in social services. The two committees will differ about whether the funding should go into the police department, social workers, for example, or whether it should go into social human services outside of the police department. I think we actually are officially advocating both of those things. Some funded positions within the police department, and some funds allocated to the Department of Human Services, Public Health and Human Services. So something that kind of says, okay, these are our budget increases, and this is what we've heard about the notion of where that money should come from. I think we should comment on that one way or another. No, I'm not volunteering.
Pardon me?
No, I'm not volunteering.
You're not volunteering. Okay.
No, I just, between now and tomorrow, I just don't have the bandwidth.
Oh, no, it doesn't. I don't think we should shoot to get this done by tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
I think maybe by our next meeting.
By March.
Can I make?
Wait, hold on, Marty, hold on. So, if
by March 10th, I could.
Okay, yeah, if you could start in a Google Docs so that other people can put in their thoughts too. I think that would be very helpful. I think those are important questions that we have good answers for, and we need to make sure that it's clear what those answers are. Marty, would you?
Well, my suggestion is we await a transcript. it seems to me that, first of all,
We're not going to get a transcript. We'll
Sorry?
we're not going to get a transcript because I forgot what the reason is. Devin said that we're not going to get a transcript.
You can,
I mean, unless we hire someone to do a transcript, which I don't see why we would do.
well,
No, what
wasn't-
is Evan
how
gonna
was
say?
that, what, was that first one, the first public hearing we had got transcribed? Was that expensive?
I can pull it up right now. I think it was maybe like $300 or $400.
Anyway, my point is that I actually, as you all know, I left at 7, and then I won a 25-cent bet that Savion Cohen would mention that I was missing. But I did actually listen to the tape, and it strikes me that the idea of answering questions just by people's recollection what the questions were is not
No, I'm not
best way to do
suggesting. I think that the question part of this hearing was short enough that we could just listen to the tape.
Well, that's an alternative, I guess. All I'm saying is I don't think people should bother trying to answer questions that are not precisely the questions that were asked.
Yeah.
Can I just mention that Acting Chief Morgan will be presenting to the Public Safety, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Janice, the Public Safety Advisory Committee on Wednesday evening regarding the police department budget. And so if folks are interested in hearing where we're experiencing some of our cuts, where some of those impacts will be, that will be on Wednesday evening. Janice, you can probably tell us what time.
Yes, in fact, I was going to ask Devin, who's still here, to please let the members of both committees know about it. So it's 5:30 on Wednesday.
Can we get an invite and a link? I think I probably get them anyway, because I
Yeah, if
get
you're
all
at work
the-
online, you got the invite, but maybe Devin can, can send it to the members of both committees as well.
Okay. And Devin, just put in the chat box. Let me see if I can find it. Information. Let's see. I put screenshots of all the questions, comments, and the Q&A from that meeting. Okay, that's in your folder, and transcript. Okay, know that. So I think that people wanting to prepare the answers of the committee, and I'll participate in that also, should just listen to the short period that the questions comprised, and look at the screenshots that Devin has provided. And we'll know what people are concerned about, and we'll come up with answers. And to the extent that the concerns were things that should cause us to have caused us to change provision or parts of the report, we can mention that.
I have one more question. That Devin just let us know that the transcript of the other one was $480, and that was a longer hearing. Seems to me this one would be less, and I want to request that we get a transcript of this. I think that's a much better way to get an easy record. So will that be happening, or do I have to make a motion?
Well, what do other people think?
Well, we probably spent any of the money that was allocated to us, so I don't see why it's a problem.
Okay, you want to do that?
No.
Okay. I mean, I mean, we do have the money that's been allocated to us. It's not that we have to spend it just because we have it, but okay. So do we need to vote on that?
Yes, you do. It will need to be a roll call vote to spend the money for the reforms committee. Bernard, do you want to put the vote out, or Marty, would you like to?
Can I just ask? I mean, like, when would we get the transcript by, and would it be? I mean, if we're expecting to have concocted responses by March 10th, and our turnaround for the transcript is not until that time, it seems like it's sort of a frivolous expense to me. I mean, I hate to be hate to be annoying, but like.
The turnaround time is 1 week or less.
Okay, so I suggest that we not wait on the transcript to begin to work on the responses, because I don't think that's necessary. The amount of time that the questions took up is relatively short. We can just watch the tape. And I mean, the transcript, from what I can gather, would be just for the record, whatever
Well, that's
that
all I
is.
wanted for. And I agree with what you just said, that
Okay,
people who want to try to answer questions can review the tape.
right.
I mean, I would vote against this because we're like probably going to lay off teachers this year, and I just can't imagine spending $500 on this if it goes to free cash or whatever. I don't understand how this works, but that's probably better for the world, in my opinion. So
I guess
this-
we don't use it. It would go to free cash, wouldn't it? That's an interesting question.
so
Not
if this
much.
were to go to a vote, I would vote no. Just FYI.
Okay, so let's vote. Marty, why don't you make your motion?
Well, my motion is that we vote to get a transcript, which I'm guessing will be less than the 480 because
Okay,
that was.
you vote to get you move that we get a transcript.
I'm moving that we get a transcript because I think it's important for the record.
Okay, all in favor, Marty?
Yes.
You're the one first on my screen. Michael Zurab.
No.
Let's see, Robert Sable.
No.
No. Paul Yee.
No.
Wow. Ron Wilkinson.
Yes.
Let's see who else. Casey Hatchett.
Yes.
Elizabeth Childs.
Yes.
Sasan Zelka.
Yes.
Raj Danda.
Is he here?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. You're muted, Raj.
Raj Danda, yes or no?
I'm sorry, I just joined. What are we voting on?
Whether to get a transcript of the hearing.
Yes,
Okay, Paul Yee. Did I call you already, Paul?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Did I call Casey Hatchett?
Yes.
Okay, my screen sort of changes. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone?
No, you need to call yourself.
Oh, and chair votes, yes. Okay, so what's the count?
7-3, motion passes.
Okay, so if I had changed my vote, it wouldn't have made a difference, huh? Okay, so we get a transcript. We should have put a limit on the cost, but we didn't, if we could. Okay, so
Put it in my motion,
we'll do
but
that.
you shut me off.
Pardon me?
Nothing.
I shut you off?
I was trying to put a number into the motion.
People say I don't shut you off. I just sat
Are
up all
you
the time.
describing the entire hearing or just the question and answer
I
portion?
think it should be the entire hearing.
I agree. I think that's really important for public transparency
Yeah.
to have that and accessibility. I think that's a worthwhile effort.
Okay. Let me get on my screen here. Okay. Any other discussion of the hearing? Anything else? Anyone else want to work on responding to the questions or comments? Okay, it's me and Ron on Google Docs. Ron, do you know how to set that up?
Bernard,
Yeah,
I
no
would be
problem.
happy to help on that, especially because some of those questions were directed at our committee.
Okay.
So our subcommittees.
Okay.
So yeah,
Me, Ron, and Elizabeth.
yeah, I'd be able to.
Okay, Ron, you'll set up the Google Docs and send that.
I suppose I can.
Okay, I mean, it just means create a Google Docs document and invite us to join.
Mhm.
I mean, even I can do that. Okay, and me. Okay, so put Devin in the invite.
Okay.
And
So
I think
it-
if something's specific to one particular group, a subcommittee, I think it makes sense to send that on. If there's something specific to our subcommittee on, community outreach, youth, and homeless, non-traditional roles, I'm happy to have you send that, and I can answer that and send it back.
Okay.
okay, so let me just.
So- Okay, is that, wait, what do you, I'm sorry, maybe I missed what you said. Who will send you what?
No, she just said if we just come across questions that have to specifically to do with the committee that the subcommittee that she
Okay.
chaired, that she feels reasonably enough that she should have a chance to answer those
Right.
questions.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion on the hearing? I think that's a plan. Was there anything, did anyone take from the hearing information or suggestions that were incorporated into the document? No? Okay. Any further discussion of that, or you want to move on to the next topic? Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Discussion of committee work moving forward. I sent around an email to the subcommittee chairs outlining what they need to do if they haven't already done to get the report in order for the select board packet tomorrow. The select board already has the preliminary draft of the report. Unfortunately, that does not include, to my understanding, any of the appendices. So we need to get any updated versions of the reports into Google Docs so that Devin can download them, at some point. And we need to make sure that the appendices are organized. And I put in the email, how I think that they ought to be organized so that they're at least halfway accessible to any readers. Create one Google Doc. Okay, Devin asked to confirm the drafting committee did not create one Google Doc with, okay, wait. Devin, repeat your question.
Sorry, I know at the last meeting that a drafting committee had been formed, and so I just wanted to be sure that the drafting committee did not begin work on a final report in one Google Doc.
Correct. That's my understanding, yeah. And I'm in the drafting committee. Yeah, the drafting committee has been working, not in the formal sense, but informally going through all of the reports and other materials. So, okay, so Devin, why don't you give us a drop dead date or time? At least a few minutes after this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I will likely begin working on this at 7:30 in the morning when I start work. So I would say, midnight tonight would definitely be a hard line. I will start to compile all of that. And then I have another follow-up question. For example, I saw that Paul Yee had created a folder of all of the separate documents in his appendix, and that alone, that one appendix would take hours to put into one sheet and hyperlink all of them. So I'm wondering how other committees have approached this. Are you listing your references? Are they all together? I just want to get a sense of where each group is at on that specifically, especially if, Bernard, you want that to be a separate document.
Yeah. Did everyone got my email, correct? Well, if you haven't, what I said with respect to the appendices is that the appendices should be organized into one Google Doc. The first page should be a list of the documents in the appendices with, of course, the appendix label, appendix A, B, C, or D. I don't think that's necessary or it's possible to have a table of contents that gives a page number for each individual document. So let's not do that. I think it makes it difficult, but it's a way that we can get an appendix together without taking another 3 or 4 months to organize it. So can everyone do that? Is that possible for everyone? And does everyone know their appendix letter assignment?
No.
Okay, your accountability subcommittee is Appendix B. And then Civil Rights is Appendix C. Community Outreach, Appendix D. Mental Health and Substance Use, Appendix A, B, C, D, E. And Personnel is Appendix F. So that's 6, A, B, C, D, E, F. 6 appendices.
So just to clarify, Bernard, I'm going to create a Google Doc folder that's titled Appendix D, and then I'm going to upload all of my linked documents as well as a cover sheet listing what those documents are.
Right.
Order of the report, essentially.
Right.
Okay.
And that will be a Google Doc, just one Google Doc.
Okay.
Is it one document or one folder comprised of documents? Sorry to be obnoxious. I'm just trying to
And
understand.
now let's explain to me terminology.
My dream is one document.
Okay. Can I just
Oh.
combine the PDF, like combine it into a PDF? Like what's the ultimate?
Oh, okay.
You can say no. I'm just wondering if that's.
Yeah. So my thought was that it would be all one Google Doc that I would then download into a Word document, do all of the formatting in Word, and then save it as a PDF.
Okay. So I will.
Yeah. So my process is going to be, I'm going to be going through adding all of your reports, and then that's going to be one document. The report document is going to be separate, and then the appendix document. And I don't know, just based on the volume, if that will be ready, but I guess what I will prioritize is your report document. So if everyone can just be sure that their report documents are absolutely where they need to be by tomorrow morning, that would be great. And then I'll give you till noon tomorrow for the appendices, because I'm very confident that they will likely not be done for the select board meeting, just based on how many supporting documents it sounds like each group has. But
So Devin, a lot of my documents that I'm referencing, and I'm sure this is true, certainly I know it is for Paul's report, are PDF documents produced by, for instance, the police department, like a fact sheet, or, the mid-year reports with tables. And those really we only have in PDF. So I'm just,
okay.
I don't know if there's a technical workaround for that in terms of putting it into a Google Doc, unless I put it into a Google Doc as like a screenshot.
Maybe share it with me. Share with me in a folder, either a Google folder or a OneDrive folder, like Paul did. Like he put his folder in the Civil Rights Subcommittee folder in OneDrive, which was very helpful. I knew exactly where to look for it. If they're all PDFs and that's what you're referencing, I will need that cover sheet, sort of with all of them listed out. But then maybe what I'll do is I'll upload them into the document center on the town website, and then I can hyperlink them into the document. But like I said, that will take hours. So that is something that will likely not be done for the select board meeting tomorrow, but by the next committee meeting.
It might help that many of the documents are already in the document center.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, Elizabeth, this is really getting way more complicated than.
What about,
skill
we have an appendix, it's a video. What do you want us to do with that?
Oh,
Is
you
it a
would make
link?
it difficult, wouldn't you?
I have the link, right?
Okay, that's all I need.
That's all you need. Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, so you would put the title of that video and then the hyperlink next to it in your rundown. That's perfect.
Okay. Okay, Devin, do you understand what we're going to be doing here?
I do.
Because I don't.
He's the only one that understands, I think.
Okay. And I don't understand the hyperlink thing, but that may be the solution to our problem. But okay, so just make sure that you get something to Devin or available to Devin through Google Docs or through identifying documents that are in the file already.
So Devin, just so that I'm clear, because my appendix is like 200 pages of PDFs. So the way I have it set up right now in the subcommittee file, is that satisfactory or I need to do something more?
Do you have your cover sheet in there that lists all of them in order?
No, I don't.
Oh,
It'll
I
take
thought
me
you
a
did,
while.
Paul.
I had them all in order. Well, they go in order as, let's see.
I thought I
In the
saw
body
something.
of the report, it refers to the appendix and the appendix page. So each of these documents, that's how they're referenced. Appendix, say 1, appendix 29, appendix 136, whatever the number is, right? It's referenced in the body of the document. I don't have a hyperlink because I didn't know how to do it.
That's okay.
Okay, so that's going to work.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a scary pause. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I have some questions about that. I don't want to make it more complicated, but I
Please
probably
don't.
will. In any event, I apologize to the extent I do. That's one of those lame apologies. One thing, first of all, I happened to notice I did give some comments to Bernard from yesterday and early this morning about the reporting, especially about his introduction and forward, I think, what the titles of the first 2 sections. But one thing I noticed is that, and this gets back to what you were just talking about, the very first reference to an appendix is on one of the first pages, and it talks about the 2009 and 1987 reports. So this gets me to what I'm really about to ask, which is, how are you going to number the appendices in accordance with the actual document? Usually a document refers to appendices, and whatever one comes first becomes Appendix A, and then the next one is Appendix B. But what you're talking about is a whole different system that may make it harder to find things, and among other things, you should have a table of contents for the appendices.
Okay, that's way over our ability right now.
Well,
yeah, we're going to probably have I don't know, 100 documents in these appendices. You know, and it will be, you know, maybe it can be a project for you know, later on to, you know, make the document
that's fine.
more perfect. But we're not going to do that for tomorrow's meeting.
All right, well, oh no, I wasn't talking about by tomorrow, but the other thing I suggested to you, and when I did some redlining on the document, especially those first 2 sections, I added a pagination header that would also could incorporate the appendices too, so that if someone wants to point to a page in the document, they'll have a page number. The document itself has page number. Well, actually, I think it does.
But you're, Marty, just talking about one section of the report.
Well, actually,
right?
What I'm talking about now would be the entire report with appendices. The document.
But you're referencing the page numbers. You're talking about one section that you're working in.
Well, no, because what I added a header that would include all the subcommittee reports that were attached. So that if somebody wants to point to a subcommittee report, they could say the accountability subcommittee addressed this on page 150 of the full document, so that things can be found. I guess.
But are you talking about, when you say the full document, are you talking about the PDF that was produced for the hearing last week?
I'm talking about the one, it's dated 2.22.21.
Yeah, so all I did with that was I downloaded everybody's reports as a PDF and then put them together. So that is just like done for preliminary purposes. If you were going to, like you said before, have an appendices that was in numeric or alphabetical order, it would need to be put into one working document, either a Google Doc or a Word document, and then all of that formatting would need to change.
We're not going to do that.
All right, well, anyway, I'm just trying to picture it being user-friendly, and I'm not sure, it's not gonna get solved, but.
Well, it's not going to be user-friendly, I mean, at this point. And we can make it user-friendly, but in terms of the appendices, people are going to go to the first page of each appendix, look at, the documents that they're interested in, and then go through and find it.
But how will they even find the first page for each appendix? That's part of my question.
Well, that they will be, how do they do that? Aren't the individual, well, wait a minute. Aren't the individual appendices going to be hyperlinked in some way?
I mean, the idea would be they would be bookmarked.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's the word.
But
Well,
yeah,
anyway, it's not gonna get solved by tomorrow. I think that higher minds than I should think about this after tomorrow.
Okay, so if we can hyperlink each individual appendix, I think that is the best we can do. Ron, did you have a question?
No, I don't.
A comment? Oh, sorry. Oh, Elizabeth.
I have a question, a comment. Can we ask for forgiveness now in case we don't do it right? Because I have a feeling that even though we're going to try to get you something that is the best possible, it may not be exactly right for tomorrow night, but we'll just get you the best we can. Is that okay, Devin?
yeah, and I would
Blame it
say
on us completely.
no, don't worry about that. I would say really do not worry about the appendices at this time. What I would like you to focus on is your actual reports, and then I will format them into one fluid document, and then we'll deal with the appendices later because it's way more involved than I anticipated.
Okay, great. I'll get it to you. I know it's not going to be exact. There's no way the appendices stuff is.
It's all good.
But you have a list of your appendices, right?
I do, and I have all the appendices and I have them in a document, but I just have a feeling that even with that, I'm going to need to ask for forgiveness. So I'm just going to do it up front.
No, you're forgiven. Whoever my forgiveness is worth. Okay, so moving on. Where are we? Anything else we need to discuss about that? So tomorrow I will be making the presentation to the select board, and I'd like at least the chairs of the subcommittees to be available so that if the select board has any questions, or if I have any questions, we can ask you and help clarify any issues that may not be clear. I'm going to basically separate the report's recommendations into a number of categories. Number one, those items that we've already accomplished, and no need to worry about going forward. For example, the chokehold ban. Number two, those recommendations that are recommendations to the departments and town departments. Things that we suggest that, for example, the Department of Public Health and Human Services do to improve things related to policing as it intersects with public health and human services. Number three, let's see, universal recommendations, and that is I pulled out certain things that each individual subcommittee doesn't have to say we recommend this also. And the best example of that is the PCAC. That's sort of a universal recommendation, is in that most of the subcommittees are suggesting things that could be handled by the PCAC or that relate in some way to the PCAC. And then recommendations to the select board. And I try to put them in a form where it's actually reflects how the select board functions. So in some cases, I say the select board direct the town administrator to do X, Y, and Z. Like include in his budget, A, B, and C. That the select board requests the police department to prepare a general order with respect to A, B, and C. And so that's how I'm going to go through this. People should look at the slide deck that is prepared in Google Slides, and make comments with respect to anything you think is awry, or that you think is something I should add to that. Now, the way Google Slides operates is that you can't make suggested changes like in Google Docs, but rather you make a comment that comes up in the margin, and your comments could include the type of additional language that you think should be inserted into a particular part of the document. And I'll go through and incorporate comments or not that you put in that comment margin. So I think that's clear. If I misstated something, please let me know. Janice, what is your?
Yes, so there was one slide that I thought was very wordy, and I condensed it, and it was too much to do and the comment piece on the side. So I actually inserted an alternative slide for people to look at. So pull out, just to be aware that I did that.
Okay, and is it clear that you put in that is it clear where your alternative slide is?
Yes, it's right. It's right after.
Okay, I won't miss it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you shouldn't miss it. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any other questions about getting this report together? Marty, again.
Bernard?
Yeah.
I have a question partly for Michael. I just noticed yesterday when I was, am I getting an echo? Anyway,
No.
I just noticed yesterday an appendix that includes the complaint procedure, which is, I don't know, 10 pages, whatever, at the very end. And I don't think that's ready for publication yet. We haven't talked about it. I know you've done your Herculean work on it, but the committee hasn't talked about it, and I have some things that I disagree on, and I just think it needs a lot more discussion before it gets published.
Okay.
That's only, I mean, you've done a lot of work, so I don't want to say only what you've done, but it's mostly what you've done. And I don't think it's a product of, there's a lot of things, as you know, when we've talked about it.
I don't think we need to go into this anymore. I'm happy not to include it.
I just don't think it's ready.
Okay, so what I'll be doing is asking the select board to give us authorization to continue our work to do certain specific things. The completion of the complaint policy is one of those things. So, it'll be clear that, that's not in any final form, and that we'll be working on that.
But I just don't think it's ready to be published, is what I'm saying.
You got it, and it's not going to be published.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else? Let's see. I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, our next meeting of the committee is going to be March 10 at 5 p.m. At that point, we'll probably be discussing the what will we be discussing? The answers to the questions from our hearing, the final work on the report, meaning, do we need to clean up anything, in particular the appendices, and talk about the work of the subcommittees going forward on the specific topics that they are working on. Anything else you think?
Bernard, when you say final report, what is the date you have in mind for that?
Well, the final report's going to be tomorrow. Now, I think that there may be a little editing that needs to be done after that, so that the sort of official record you know, is a little cleaner than the final report will be. But, you know, we need to get this tomorrow. I mean, it's in very good shape. We don't need to obsess over
What
this.
about things like the police survey that we talked about? Can something be added about that?
Oh, yeah, that's something we need.
Actually, that was my question,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay. So yeah, we need to talk about that on the 10th. The police survey, I don't think we're really in a position to add to the report, other than to say that, you know, it will be coming.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, Bernard, one thing we might think about with that is, I could put a section in the personnel subcommittee that the survey has been done, and we could at least acknowledge the percentage of return, and that the results will be added as an addendum later, or something like that, if you think that's appropriate.
Yeah, and I think that works.
Okay, and then we could discuss the results and what it means.
Right.
Yeah. And do you want us to discuss those results in a personnel subcommittee first, or do you want us to do it right here as the whole committee on the 10th?
Why don't we get together in the personnel subcommittee, and then we can, you know, have a full committee discussion on the 10th.
We can queue up issues, queue it up, kind of.
Right, right.
Okay.
All right. For to queue up the discussion.
I'll get that scheduled with Devin so we can get that meeting posted. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, giving a 20-minute warning. Okay, Devin's giving us a 20-minute warning. Is there much else that we need to talk about? Can we, I'm taking notes as I'm talking. So the meeting on the 10th will include discussion of answers to comments, the survey, work going forward by subcommittees, and there's something else. What else do we need to talk about at that meeting? Come on, help me come up with the agenda. Question, answers, comments, survey, work going forward. Oh, finalizing the appendices, and any final edits to clean up the report to be ready for posterity.
Bernard, can I just clarify, tomorrow night you present our committee's recommendations along with the task force recommendations, and then the select board has a public hearing on, is it March 16th?
Yeah. So yeah, Raul will present his task force hearings. I'm going to present mine. I want, like I said before, the subcommittee chairs to be available to answer any questions from the select board, or I may ask you to clarify something that I say. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible so that you know, select board can absorb this. It's a lot of material. So, you know, my presentation won't include everything, but hopefully it will provide the type of access to the report that will be useful. And then the select committee select board will have chance between now and the 16th to review the report. I assume that for tomorrow, they'll probably review the introduction and maybe the forward and the slides. Some of them probably will have read parts of the full report. But, you know, between now and the 16th, they'll have a chance to get into it deeper so for the hearing. And then on the 30th, we're going to have votes of the select board on proposals such as the PCAC. Marty, again.
Yeah, thank you. Especially for the again. I just want to get back to the exchange about 5 minutes ago with Elizabeth about the survey. Am I misremembering that when we talked about this at the beginning, Bernard, you agreed to put in 2 or 3 sentences about it into your introduction and forward. which I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
gonna send those to him as we discuss.
Okay, great,
the paragraph.
thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, anything else? What's next on this agenda? Okay, we have the next meeting is 5th. We have some ideas as to what the agenda will be. So unless there's any other discussion from the committee, why don't we see if there's anyone who'd like to make a public comment? Devin, could you check the queue or check the audience to see if anyone wants to make a public comment?
At this time, there are 2 attendees, and if folks would like to make a public comment, they can use the hand raise or Q&A feature and will be promoted to a panelist. At this time, it appears that no one would like to make a public comment.
Okay, unless there's anything else that people want to discuss, why don't we end the meeting so Devin can go set up her next meeting?
Oh, Bernard, do you have any idea when this will be reached tomorrow night?
My guess is around 7 o'clock, but you know, if people are interested, they may want to tune in at the beginning because I'm sure there'll be public comments that will be pertinent to the presentation. Would 7 o'clock be a good estimate of when the reports on the 2 committees would be coming up, Devin?
Yeah, I would say 7:30.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, and it's going to be a long night because my report is going to be longer than I'd like it to be, and I believe the task force report is going to be very long too. My understanding is that each of their subcommittee chairs will be presenting their reports. So I assume no one objects to the fact that I'm going to do the reports and just call on the chairs as for clarifying purposes. I think that's just the easiest way, quickest way to get through this huge amount of material that we have. That, by the way, has elicited a lot of very, very favorable comments from people who apparently read them, read both reports. So you can be proud of the work that you've done. It's very, very important information that people are appreciating. Anything else? Okay, let's end this meeting. Bye, everyone. I hope to see you tomorrow.